Welcome, everybody. Joe Quills here with you. Alone tonight. Mike is taking a week off. He'll be back next Monday, hopefully. And another edition of Joe Quills Show. And got a lot to talk about here tonight. And yeah, it was a crappy day in Philly yesterday. And we'll get to that. Um, because not one, not two, but three Philadelphia teams lost yesterday. Would have been four if the Flyers played, but they didn't. But I'll tell you who the three are. We know about the Eagles, but we'll get through all that here coming up a little bit. Little late night news last night. Well, later in the evening, Chip Kelly got fired by the Raiders. That experiment is over after 11 games. Shadeur Sanders going to get another start this weekend. Jamar Chase is sorry for spitting on Jalen Ramsey. I'll give thoughts on that. And Baker Mayfield got good news today because he's only going to be, low grade sprain. Now, what they do with him is another thing, but at least it's not throwing shoulder. But we'll get into all that and more here coming up here on the show. Oh, and we also have a stupid shit that I saw story that will make you and if this is offensive, sorry, it's true. It'll make your head shake harder than Michael J. Fox. That's how bad this stupid shit that I saw story was. But if you're a Facebook friend with me, um, you may know where I'm going with this, and you may not. But just some crazy stuff that happened over the weekend that gets to be part of the stupid shit I saw. And stupid in the stupid shit that I saw segment. Mickey, welcome in. Now the stupid shit that I saw segment. Sometimes it's stupid funny. This is stupid as in life threatening stupid. And how you define stupid, and it goes in different ways. Um so we'll get into that in a little bit here. So Mike will be back next week. I'm still doing the show. And by the way, I will be live tomorrow night, and I'm off on Thursday. So tomorrow will be the last show of the week until Saturday when Also Eligible comes around. And do have an update, some horse racing updates here as well, because AJ has another horse going this weekend, this upcoming weekend, and I will tell you which horse, and I will also tell you some thoughts there. So I also got my eyes on the football game here, and it is an ugly game right now in San Francisco. Just looking at one thing. 4 interceptions in the first half. Three already by Brock Purdy. Bryce Young also threw an interception as well. So if you see me looking off to the side here, I got the TV on, trying to keep track of everything because I do have George Kittle for an anytime touchdown tonight. So hopefully that comes in for me. So hope everybody had a great Monday out there. Me, typical Monday. And we'll see what we can get into. I see. Mike's under the weather, okay? And here's the thing. If you're a co-host and you back out early enough, I have no problem with it. He texted me about, I don't know, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, something like that. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Kind of like when I did not have a show 2 Mondays ago. I texted Mike as soon as I could because, because I don't know if he sees my text right away or not, because he's not like me where I'm attached to my phone looking at everything and seeing what news comes up and who's going to sign where in the NBA in the MLB and stuff like that. So um and Mickey, hope you feel better as well. Whatever it is going around. But um yeah, so totally lost my train of thought there. So um but you know oh, I know what it was. So like I'm more attached to my phone because I also use it as stress relief when I'm working. So, but I'm also looking for ideas to talk about tonight as well. Um, and I'm always looking for something as well, especially the nights that I'm working. But the nights that I'm doing this. But we're here to have fun, and you know, but I'm trying to bring a good product to all you guys. So, but um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how soon Mike sees my post, and he may just be he saw it, like, oh, I'll answer him later or something like that, or he just answers right away. But like 2 weeks ago, I was sick for like 4 or 5 days. Well, it was worse on the weekend and Sunday night. It was just like I can't do it Monday, but I banged out Monday and Tuesday because I don't think it'd be fair to Mike to say, "Oh, I'm not doing Monday, but I come back on Tuesday." Now I probably would have been snorting away and all that because of all the sinus problems I had, but you know, but but if I'm out, if I'm not doing a show, there's a reason for it. So, but yeah, so hopefully Mike gets better. Hopefully Mickey gets better, and hopefully everybody who's a little under weather gets a little bit better here. Um, so yesterday was not a good day to be a Philly sports fan. Oh my God. So there were 3 games of interest for Philly sports fans. There was the Sixers and the Heat playing at 1 o'clock at the Xfinity Mobile Center Arena. I mean, so there was that game. Then there was the Eagles game that everybody was looking at. And then there was the Philadelphia Union. And I know some people are like, I should have uploaded this. Who the hell cares? Well, I care, damn it, because I'm hoping for another parade in this city, but it didn't happen. Or especially with the Philadelphia Union, because I want to see, are they going to have a parade up or down Broad Street or whatever? Are they going to have something in Philly? Are they going to have any? Or are they going to have something in Delco? Because the Philadelphia Union actually plays in Chester, Pennsylvania. And I know what you're saying. Chester, ain't that dangerous city? Well, I can tell you from going to Harris, Philadelphia, which is in Chester, and the soccer stadium there. The two, both venues, you know how they say on the other side of the tracks? Well, the side of the tracks between the tracks and the Delaware River isn't that bad. There, then again, it's all waterfront and a lot of businesses and not really much in the way of houses. But once you get onto the other side of the tracks, where you know the other side of the tracks are, you get to see the blight and everything else that's there in Chester. Um, but Sixers lost. I did not watch one bit of that game only because I had 2 TVs going and all that. So one was on the red zone, the other was on live football. Um, then then we had the Eagles game. And I watched that first quarter and part of the second. And when you see that, it's like, holy shit. I mean, everything was going the Eagles' way. They went right down the field and scored on Dallas. Um, they got the ball back, got a second touchdown where there was a phantom no call on a roughing the kicker call because of the fact that it did look like that the um, Dallas Cowboy did have the ball graze off his hand. So, and the Eagles were in control. Then they get a fumble. And that was one of those that was Turpin fumbling when he tripped. So then the Eagles scored another touchdown. So you had 3 drives, 3 touchdowns. And so you're beginning to think, this is way too easy. And, I even joked around and, somebody said, oh, that aged well on Facebook, whatever, because we know Jerry Jones isn't getting any glory hole this year. And, if you want to know what I mean there by that, go onto YouTube, or if you're watching on YouTube, watch after the show. Search Jerry Jones glory hole, and you'll see this. Press conference he had during training camp a few years ago, and you'll see what I mean. So then the Eagles get an interception deep in Dallas territory, and it's like, man, everything's going the Eagles' way. And but it was an 11-play drive that they had, and they got the ball all the way down to. They were all the way down to the 1-yard line. They had a penalty that pushed them back to the 5 or 6, and then there was the interception. So it's like, man, the defense is playing great. The offense isn't stagnant. Well, things changed quickly because Dallas got the ball back, got a touchdown towards the end of the second quarter. It's like, well, if you get a touchdown here to start the third quarter because of the fact that you get the ball first, or you put any points on the board on that first drive, then you get the momentum back. And Dallas, with everything that happened with Marshawn Nealon and, just to let you guys know as well, I'm not going to make any jokes about that, but I will tell you, if you need help, there is help out there. I mean, if you have to go as far as to dial 988 for help, do it. If you have to contact a friend and say, hey, something's not right with me, I need to talk to somebody, do it. I'm not necessarily, some people claim to be mental health advocates. Now, I don't like using titles. I don't like using the mental health advocate thing because, I've experienced some things with anxiety and depression, I can tell you how I feel, but, it's, I just like anything else, no two people experience the same things. So I won't put a title on that. I hate that I am the horse racing expert at Bleacher Brothers, but But I'm not going to change that title either. It's it's if that's what Bleacher Brother wants to call me, then hey, I'll go with it. Um, so so Dallas was playing 5 men on the line, on the defensive line, and that was messing up the Eagles. And the Eagles didn't adjust too much. So, you know, it just seemed like when everything that went well in the first half went bad in the second. And um the Eagles had their injuries and they had more injuries yesterday. Reed Blankenship hurt his groin, I believe. Um, their safety. Um, I saw it. He broke his ankle, so he's done. So, but that's why you do what you have to do. That's why you build depth on your team, so that when next man comes up, and there's not much in terms of difference in everything. So, but it was frustrating. Um, I know I ended up from sitting here watching the game or watching the game on the TV here on the antenna, through the antenna that I have on that TV, to just sitting on the recliner and just like, oh, Jesus Christ. But, um, but I think it's fairly easy to say, for example, the offensive line has to do better. Saquon has to do better. Jalen Hurts has to do better, even though he did throw for, what did he throw for? He threw for 289 yards. He took a bad sack towards the end of the game. So, and the tough part about this is now, because 2023, even though the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year, 2023 is still fresh in everybody's mind. Oh no, is this happening again? I don't think it will be, but you have the pieces, especially on the offensive side. And I want to say sometimes these things happen, but you just have to realize that sometimes you just got to get that momentum back. And um, and then there was all kinds of weird plays towards the end of the game. Let's see. Saquon Barkley fumbled, which, I don't necessarily think it was. Of course, some people say, "Oh, yeah, it is bad ball handling," but sometimes you can just tell. Sometimes you can just tell. Like, for example, last year, T.J. Watt punched the ball perfectly, and Jalen Hurts fumbled. Sometimes you protect that ball, and it just happens that way. So, but the one for I'm pulling something up here because I do want to show you something here. Um, So let me go over here because I want to get this ready to go here. Um, okay, so we're ready. Okay, so I'm ready to go when I show this. Um, so, and then the punt returner, Xavier Gibson, and I would cut his ass right now if I had the chance because I looked away for a couple of minutes when the punt was in the air. Now, normally, what I think you teach the punt returners is when you're in that part of the field, if you're standing around the 10-yard line, if you start moving back, let the ball go into the end zone. Because guess what? You knew it was going to happen because little by little things were changing. And it's like, oh, Dallas is still in this. Dallas is in this. And he fumbles. So you had 4 turnovers in your first 10 games or 10 games. And then you had 2 in a matter of minutes. So it's like, Jesus Christ, what the hell's going on here? So, but Jalen Hurts took a bad sack. Now, it's not necessarily on him, it's on the offensive line, but you have a couple of guys who are hurt right now. So the next man up mentality didn't work, and they never really adjusted to the 5-man line. And guess what? On Friday, you're probably going to see Jalen Hurts with the 5-man facing a 5-man line, and that offensive line just got to figure out how to get around and get the ball down the field. Because guess what? I mean, everybody's to blame here. I mean, the offensive line is to blame. The offensive line's to blame. Saquon Barkley's to blame. Jalen Hurts is to blame. Everybody in the offense, even if I didn't mention by name. And on top of that, because the one thing I've said over and over again, I've said it over and over again, I've said it for years, your best defense is a ball control running game. And we got to see that last year, even if Saquon Barkley didn't have all those 60-yard touchdowns. Even if he gets for like 10, 15 yards. Guess what? You're moving the chains, you're running the clock, all that. And you're wearing out that defense. And wearing out that defense is why Saquon got those 2,000 yards. Because guess what? I would say at least 65% of them were second half yards and touchdowns. So, and then I saw today, and somebody said this. Somebody posted on Facebook. Might have been one of the sports blog pages I follow on Facebook. One of the writers, and maybe it's fair, maybe it's not. They asked if are you going to take over the play calling from Kevin Patullo? And he said no. He being Nick Sirianni. But I really think that maybe it's just the media, maybe it's the writers having to see it on X or in their emails. When are they going to fire Patullo? Now, I've seen on Facebook that some people want to hire him for a head coaching job. I say, go right ahead. See you later. But the first 20 minutes of that football game, that gave me promise in this offense. Now, granted, I'd rather see them run the ball more. But you got some plays there. Now, it seems like I think what the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to mix things up on first down because you're starting a little pattern here that the first play goes to A.J. Brown because we got to keep that malcontent happy. But I will say this. I feel like that I'm pretty secure that the Phillies, Jesus Christ, that the Eagles are going to win the division. But we've seen this script before. And you could see this potentially go off the rails. And if it does go off the rails, thank God I don't listen to sports talk radio here in Philadelphia. I don't listen to WIP. I don't listen to 97.5 The Fanatic. I'll tell you this. The only time I will listen to either of those stations is when I'm in somebody's car and they say, hey, you want to listen to WIP? I'm basically like your car, your rule, your car, your radio. Put on what you want. I don't have a problem with that, but now I follow 97.5 and WIP on Facebook and on X because sometimes you have to know what's going on, and sometimes you just have to realize that hey, I have to know some opinions. And it's sometimes it's weird when I get into Mike's car. He goes, oh, did you hear about this one? No, I don't listen to sports talk radio in Philly. I mean, it's not that. It's just that, some of the stupid shit that they have on the side. But I don't feel like I feel like there's a problem. I think it's fixable. How you fix it, I don't know. If Patullo ends up disappearing and going to another team next year, bye. But it would be nice to get somebody, an offensive coordinator, or get an offensive coordinator who'll be here 2 years in a row. Because the play caller, he has had the same play caller for 2 years in a row, Jalen Hurts, that is, since college. Even in college, he had a different play caller every year. So I just think that it was just something that just, it's something that is going to be festering, but you need to fix this problem now. And I think that you did see a little bit of it being fixed, and then it went off the rails. So in Chicago, earlier in the when the schedule first came out in May, it's like, ooh, Black Friday game. And then you say, oh, well, that should be a win. Well, it should be a win, but the game's a lot tougher than what we thought back in May. You got the what's the what's the fingernail polish quarterback, Caleb Williams at quarterback for the Bears. He's getting the system. He's thriving in it, and Chicago's winning with their head coach. But you know, but the injuries are starting to take their toll on the Eagles, and it's got to be next man up. So, but then on top of that, because I had my day set up perfectly. Sixers, if I wanted to watch them, which I didn't because not enough TV screens. Actually, I could have gone split screen on the TV, but I didn't. Then you had the Eagles game, and then you had the Philadelphia Union as they took on NYCFC, and for the second time in the last 4 years, I believe it is, a homegrown product goalie ends up on another team, and his team eliminates the Union. In 2022, in the MLS Cup final, the goalie that was there came in late in the second overtime because they play 45-minute halves, and then they play two 15-minute overtime periods, full 30 minutes, no matter what the score is. So it's not golden goal, as they call it. So this goalie came in because the goalie that started got hurt. So he had to sub in, and then somebody else had to go off because the initial goalie got red carded. So not only did he get hurt, he also got red carded. So, but the goalie, I think his name was McCarthy, went to LaSalle, went to North Catholic, I believe. He's insanely good on penalty kicks, so they ended up winning. LAFC won the cup that year. And then this year, the NYCFC goalie was a homegrown product, ended up with NYCFC, and he's also the U.S. national team goalie. He ended up beating the Union last night 1-0. So it was not a good day to be a Philadelphia sports fan. Now, if you faded all three Philly teams, I'm sure you got some good money because you got good money on the three-way line. And you know me, I love a three-way. Got a good three-way line with NYCFC yesterday. I don't know what the line was. Eagles, Dallas money line because, you don't need to play the point spread because, why play the point spread when you think they're going to win? That money line was pretty damn good. And Miami was a slight favorite over the Sixers. So if you piece those three things together, you got some nice coin. But me, it's just like, what a shitty Sunday. And then on top of that, tonight, the Philadelphia Flyers go down to Tampa, and they get shut out 3-0 to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, so 0 for 3, and the Union are eliminated in the playoffs. And Eagles, thankfully a quick turnaround, but if you think about it, that could be really ugly on Friday evening after the game. And then the Sixers lost too. So it was like, if one thing goes wrong, they all go wrong. So, and that's what happened over the last 24 hours or so. But even if we do get rid of Kevin Patullo, I guarantee you one guy that will not take over as offensive coordinator is Chip Kelly. First of all, I don't think. I mean, the good news is for Chip Kelly is he doesn't have to come to Philly now, because it would have been interesting to see how they reacted to him, even though he's in the booth, even though he's in the coach's box, he's not on the field. Would have been nice to see how they reacted. I'm sure they would have booed the living crap out of him. But in a way, you have to give him some credit because some of his draft picks did lead to that Super Bowl 52 win. So not many things went well for Chip Kelly after year one, but he did sign a few people that were pretty damn good. So, but Chip Kelly was fired last night as the offensive coordinator of the Raiders, and the Chip Kelly experiment lasted 11 games. And I think the hot seat for Raiders coach Pete Carroll is very hot right now, and we'll get into that in a second. But Chip Kelly got fired after just 11 games. That came after a 24-10 loss to the Cleveland Browns on Sunday that dropped the Raiders to 2-9 on the season. So you're looking at a guy who has failed 3 times in the NFL, because he failed with the Eagles, if you really want to say that. Well, you can. Then instead of taking a year off, he goes to San Francisco. San Francisco has one of their worst seasons in franchise history. They fire him there. And then, takes a couple years off, goes to college, and ends up winning a national championship at Ohio State, goes to Las Vegas, and does not last a full season. But what was supposed to be a rebuilding year has turned into a horrible season, even worse than they expected. Now I expected the Raiders to be bad the first half of the year, but I figured that they would start catching fire in the second half. No. Everything that can go wrong with the Raiders has gone wrong. Pete Carroll said in a statement released by the team that I spoke with Chip Kelly earlier this evening, and I informed him of his release as offensive coordinator of the Raiders. I'd like to thank Chip for his service and wish him all the best in the future. I mean, they're both Pac-12 buddies. But, I just think that a lot of what they do, and with Pete Carroll, you're as good as your coaching staff. And, Pete Carroll's 74 years old. And I think he wanted to rebuild this franchise. And maybe he can next year, but, will Tom Brady allow this? Because even though he's just a minority owner, he's the one that you're going to talk about more than Mark Davis. Well, other than Mark Davis's haircut. But so he had, if you think the Eagles' offense has been bad this year, Vegas has been putrid. They're last in the NFL in points per game at 15. 30th in total yards per game at 268.9. 31st in rushing at 79.5 with a first-round draft pick. 30th in offensive EPA, whatever that is, and 28th in red zone efficiency at 48.1%. Raiders have scored fewer than 10 points in 4 games this year. Yeah, that will get you fired in 11 games. Surprised it took that long. But Chip Kelly told Jay Glazer last night or today, I'm grateful for the opportunity with the Raiders. Bottom line, in this league, you have to win. I really love those players. I'm a huge, huge Geno Smith fan. That was one of the best parts of this experience for me, working with Gino and those guys every day. But they didn't get it done. Now, granted, they had injuries, but everybody has injuries. It's the NFL. So, and he also said, but hey, we got to win. I get it. Especially being somebody who's been a head coach twice, you have to win no matter where you are. But what makes the hot seat even hotter, in my opinion, it's the second shakeup to Carroll's staff this season. He fired special team coordinator Tom McMahon on November 7th. So twice this month he's fired somebody on his staff. That's not good. It's kind of like baseball, where you fired a hitting coach because they're not hitting, just to shake things up. Sometimes you fire the pitching coach because your team isn't pitching well. It's a wake-up call, but it's also a wake-up call to whoever's in charge, because the head coach in football or the manager in baseball, it's like, hey, let's get this going here. So, and sometimes a shake-up works. I mean, look at Antonio Pierce. The end of 23, played well. They just did not win in last year. Everything that he built ended up going in the toilet last year. But when you have two of your staff fired, that's not good, because it's only just a matter of time before, I don't think you necessarily fire Pete Carroll. I think you tell him, hey, can you say that it was a mutual decision or something, or say you quit or whatever, something that doesn't make like you're just firing somebody. But, it's, that seat is getting pretty hot as the weather's cooling off in Vegas. And it's hotter than mid-July in Vegas right now, that seat. And, it's not a good thing to have staff fired for not performing well in their job. I mean, it's another thing if they were like doing something that you fire with cause, but this is just firing because of performance. But so Carroll was asked November 13th about his relationship with Kelly, and the coach said, Chip has a world of experience that I've counted on throughout. Chip has experience, but also remember, Chip Kelly was actually he was actually not running his run and gun offense. He didn't run it at Ohio State either. So, I'm not saying that was the reason for him getting fired, but, running that in Ohio State, where, let's not be, let's look at it, Ohio State, they had the money to get the top kids from high school to play there every year. And now that NIL is on the up and up, and you can pay the players, here's a bag of money. It isn't like it's $100 handshake like it was years ago, or, anything like that. But Chip Kelly reportedly had an average salary of $6 million a year. So not only are the Raiders paying Antonio Pierce and probably Josh McDaniel, because McDaniel was the one that got fired before Antonio Pierce, I believe. Um, you're looking at a franchise who has a lot of dead money going to coaches to stay home. And that's not good either. But, you know, the Raiders, I mean, they've had injuries too. But also Geno Smith has had a horrible year. And I mean, he regressed to New York Jets Geno Smith, in my opinion. But um, and you have you have Ashton Genty, which was a high first rounder. He has 8 touchdowns, but he's only averaged 3.6 yards per game. You're not going to win that way. And maybe a new offensive coordinator or maybe even a new head coach will help him. Maybe it'll help whoever takes over the quarterback position. Maybe they get a quarterback, which they probably should have gotten in the first round this year. But then again, maybe not. But Raiders have had the injuries too. Brock Bowers missed 3 games. Colton Miller, the left tackle, was put on injury reserve on September 30th because of high ankle sprain and a hairline fracture. Jackson Powers Johnson was placed on IR earlier this month because of an ankle injury. And, it's about next man up. And, even with the injuries, the next man up thing has not worked in Vegas. But Vegas has fired an offensive coordinator midseason for the second straight year. Luke Getsy was let go after 9 games last year. But congrats to Chip Kelly. You lasted 11. And he does not have to come to Philly. We don't get to see any abuse that he takes from the Philly fans because that would have been his first trip to Philly since the 3 years of shit that he had. So, but it's something that we would have liked to have seen, especially as an Eagles fan, because I'm sure that would have been great talk radio stuff. Chip Kelly, boo. So now, what could have been a fireable offense to even Pete Carroll, and probably because you fired a OC, you don't fire the head coach unless you totally clean house, which will probably be done at the end of the year. You lost to Shadeur Sanders. Now, granted, I was too busy watching the Eagles game, so I didn't necessarily see much of the Cleveland game on Red Zone. And from what I understand from watching other streams last night after most of the games, Red Zone was keeping an eye on the Raiders and the Browns. And I get it. It's Deion's son. And, let's see what this hype's all about. And also, you only had 3 or 4 games going at the time, I believe. You had the Eagles game. You had the Saints and the Falcons. You had the Browns and the Raiders. I think those were the 3. Let me just double check here. Oh, and you had Jacksonville and Arizona. So you had 4 games going, but other than Dallas and Philly, they want to pay attention to Cleveland and Vegas because guess what? It's Deion's kid that's throwing. And, everybody's saying, he's a number. They're going to take him at number 2, and then he drops out of the first round, drops out of the second. drops out of the third, drops out of the fourth. And then Cleveland, after they drafted Dylan Gabriel, decides that, oh, yeah, we'll finally take him. So, but, yeah, I guess he did an okay job. He went 11 for 20, 209 yards and a touchdown and an interception. But most importantly, he got the win. Then again, I think beating the Raiders right now doesn't say that much about your team. But at least Browns fans can spell their team name with a W this week. Bump. So Sanders is going to remain a starter this week, despite Dylan Gabriel clearing concussion protocol. And I think you have to give him a chance. I don't think it's anything bad to Dylan Gabriel. I mean, Cleveland right now is what? Cleveland is 3-8. They are 4 games back with 6 games to go. Obviously, they're not making the playoffs, but I think this is a good time to see, can Dylan – I mean, we got to see what Dylan Gabriel can do. Let's see what Shadeur can do. And if you remember last week, somebody said that Shadeur Sanders had the worst game in the history of the NFL against Baltimore. One thing I will say about that is I did post on there. I did post last week. It's true, but let's see what he does after a week of practice if he starts this week. And he started and he won. Now, not necessarily, something that really makes you say, oh my God, he's the greatest quarterback ever. I mean, he's got to grow into the position, in my opinion. But, I mean, here's how crazy it's been for Cleveland in general. Shadeur Sanders became the 42nd quarterback to start for the Browns since 1999. 42. He became the first Cleveland quarterback to win his first NFL start since Eric Zaire.
Who the fuck is that guy?
I mean, that's how you feel. Since he won in 1995 in his first start. It ended a 17-game losing streak for the Browns in games with a quarterback making their first career start. Now, that's the longest streak by any franchise since 1950 when quarterback stats were first recorded. Now, Kevin Stefanski, the Browns coach, said the number one job of a quarterback is to win. That's what I say about Jalen Hurts. If it's a week where he has to throw for 350 yards, okay. If he throws for 100 and runs for 100, okay. What's the end result? W? Okay. So Stefanski said, so excited to get that first win under his belt. The next thing is improvement, and that's what young players do. And this time of the year, you're getting an opportunity because there's zero expectations, especially with the fact that Cleveland is 3-8. And the 6 games that they have that are left, got some tough games in there, but there are some games that are winnable if Shadeur Sanders plays in them, if he does start in them. So we'll see what happens with him. But he did make some big plays downfield. He had a 50-yard completion to Isaiah Bond with a high degree of difficulty, according to Kevin Stefanski. Were there things they could do better? Absolutely. We've already talked about that with him. He has a mentality that will make the adjustments to the speed of the game, make the adjustments to what people are giving us to make those improvements. But the one thing is, if you think about it, if you give him time to prepare, you might be able to help him succeed in the league. I mean, it also didn't help that he faced the Ravens that week, or 2 weeks ago, or 8 days ago, I should say. So you had to do something. So so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future, I guess, because Dillon Gabriel got his games in. I mean, in a season where you start out with Joe Flacco, Flacco gets traded. It's like, all right, we're going to go to the young guys. Whether that saves Stefanski's job or not, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know what the pulse is in Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski. I would think he's done, but I guess you see what you have for a quarterback. You got to see what Dillon Gabriel can do. Now we'll see what Shadeur can do. And, it'll be interesting to see. So we'll see what happens with Shadeur here. So now if you're watching elsewhere, I highly encourage you to follow me on Twitch. Subscribe on Twitch at twitch.tv/Joe Quills. Trying to get to affiliate. And hopefully I can get there and start doing even more stuff with you guys. So I'm going to be doing some different things on this to try to reach affiliate. So I have 3 of the 4 things. I just need people to follow and people to watch. And, if you do follow or subscribe at Joe Quills on Twitch, make sure those alerts are on, because that will help me as well, because then you'll see, oh, Joe's here. Even though I'm pretty good with everything I do with this stuff. So now across the state in Cincinnati, Jamar Chase said he was sorry for spitting. What I did was wrong. Okay, was it because you really feel what you did was wrong? Or was it because you lost $500,000 because you got suspended and could not play yesterday? And you know what? Joe Flacco probably could have used you against the Patriots on Sunday. At least that's what I think. But so he apologized Monday for spitting on Jalen Ramsey of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Chase said he took full responsibility for his actions in the team's game against the Steelers on the 16th. Chase was suspended without pay for 1 game after the NFL concluded he spit on Ramsey during a heated exchange in the Week 12 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, if you remember, Ramsey and Chase were going at it all day. And truthfully, and the thing is, we talk about this all the time, and I even talk about how I can walk up the street here, walk up Lansing Street, and I will see, I may only see one or two cameras, if any, but it's pretty much safe to say in this day and age where security is of utmost importance to your home, I'm sure you have personal security cameras all over the place, all up and down that street. And no matter where you go, you're going to have to wave to the camera and say, "Hi, I see you." But I really think he could get away with it. But when his own TV station calls him out and mentions it after the game, because I think it was the TV station in Cincinnati, but it might have even been NBC or not NBC, CBS. I think it was on CBS last week. And Chase said in the statement, "What I did was wrong. The circumstances don't matter. My passion for the game is no excuse. There's zero place in the sport or in life for that level of disrespect." And I hope he means that, because sometimes you just don't realize that I screwed up. But when you're sitting there at home, unable to play, and it's like, damn, we could have beaten the Patriots, who are 9-2. But Chase did not specifically mention Ramsey by name. Chase said, "I want to personally apologize to everyone within the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. I let the emotions in the moment get the better of me, blah, 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 blah." Now, one thing I told you guys is there's always precedent when it comes to union matters. And the fact that Jalen Carter got one game as served, they considered missing the entire game after that kickoff as a full game suspension. Jamar Chase, if he had gotten 2 games, he had a case. But because it was only one, it was because Jalen Carter got a game. Then Jamar Chase, we got to give him a game. We can't give him 2 unless he did something else with the spit, or maybe he spit more once. But, so, and he was probably going to get kicked from the game anyway, because Chase and Ramsey were previously flagged in the game for offsetting unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. And remember, you get 2 unsportsmanlike conducts in a game, you're gone. So the play before the altercation, referee Bill Vinovich actually, in my opinion, did something he didn't necessarily have to do. He warned the players. Both of them were warned by head referee Bill Vinovich following the scuffle between the players that preceded the second altercation. So, the fact that you went at it, and the thing is, if I know someone has an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on them, and I know that they are a bit of a hothead, a bit undisciplined at times, I'm going after them. Not necessarily with the same guy that did it the first time that got him that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, but something that can get somebody that is a superstar like Jamar Chase off the field. Because now they have to adjust to their star wide receiver not being in the game. Like what happened there. Now, granted, that's just Jalen Ramsey being Jalen Ramsey and Jamar Chase being Jamar Chase. But now, Ramsey was fined $14,191 in his role in the incident. Chase lost more than $500,000 in wages by not playing in the team's 26-20 loss to the Patriots. So, now, video captured by Cincinnati's WXIX TV showed Chase spitting on Ramsey. So I don't even think the game broadcast caught it. It was the local affiliate in Cincinnati that caught it. So, but you may be able to get you can get in the head of Jamar Chase because he has had 4 accepted penalties that have been penalized as unsportsmanlike conduct or taunting since 2021. That's third during the span. DK Metcalf and George Pickens are tied with 5. But Chase was back inside the facilities today. Chase is going to speak to reporters tomorrow. And Zach Taylor, the Bengals coach, briefly saw Chase Monday as the team prepared for Thursday's game against the Ravens. And he said, we're full speed ahead. So, but unfortunately, you have to, and I think even if you have a cool head, sometimes people do things that really get you off your game, and Jalen Ramsey knows how to do that. So now I also saw this today, and a lot of us when we were watching whatever stream I was watching last night, it was like, well, how does Baker Mayfield hurt his shoulder throwing a Hail Mary pass at the end of the first half? Well, I said, well, maybe he dislocated something or something like that, because, you can do that. And somebody said, well, the body does what it wants, and if it sprains or strains or tears, it's going to do that. But Baker did have an MRI today. He's got a low-grade AC joint sprain in his left shoulder, but no additional damage. So for Tampa Bay fans, knowing that your rival Carolina is losing 17-3 to the Niners right now, you've got a good, you got to feel pretty fortunate, just like Mayfield is, that to have not sustained a more serious injury. Now, whether Mayfield plays Sunday against the Cardinals is yet to be seen, but there's no long-term injury concerns. So he was hurt in the first half of the 34-7 loss to the Rams on Sunday. If they're leading the Buccaneers on a touchdown on a late drive in the second quarter, Mayfield went into the medical tent on the Bucs sideline. He was listed as questionable to return, but returned for the next drive. So it's like, we don't think he's coming back, but we're going to call it questionable. It's like, what the fuck are you doing out there? But so Todd Bowles said, when he goes out, he's obviously really hurt because he's a tough guy. When he went in the tent, you could see on his face when he came off the field, you kind of knew something happened right there. So he did get hurt. Now, what exactly the play was, I wasn't sure. But when he threw that Hail Mary pass or bomb or whatever it was towards the end of the half, that's when the shoulder gave out. Because even though it was his non-throwing shoulder, you do raise your other arm to throw with this arm. So, it's all motion and stuff. So, but so he was in a sling when he returned for the second half on the Tampa Bay sideline. Todd Bowles said today that losing Mayfield would be a big loss because the way he's been playing, carrying us the past few weeks, and even last year. But if he can't play, it's Teddy Bridgewater, who is moonlighting as a quarterback this year because he was suspended from his job as the head coach of a high school team in Florida because of improper benefits, which were basically Uber rides to get his kids home to his parents. But Bridgewater completed 8 of 15 passes yesterday for 62 yards. Mayfield had gone 9 for 19 for 41 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Mayfield's played in 45 straight regular season. I'm sorry, starting 45 in a row for the Bucs. The last time he missed a game due to injury was with the Panthers in 22 when he suffered a high ankle sprain. Last time Bridgewater was started a game was in 22 with the Miami Dolphins when he lost to the Patriots at home. So, but yeah, you got the injury bug is biting pretty hard right now. So, it'd be interesting to see, does he play this week? Does he not? But Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, it may be in line for the start this week. So we'll see what happens there. So, now I did see this today. I'm adding this to here, but I did see today that Justin Tucker has a tryout this week. This wasn't planned, but I did see it right before the start of the show. The Saints are bringing in Justin Tucker for a tryout, according to Kellen Moore, the head coach. Tucker and Cade York are the two kickers who will try out for the Saints on Tuesday after Blake Group, I think that's how it's pronounced, missed 2 field goals against the Falcons on Sunday. Tucker was suspended for his first 10 weeks of the 2025 NFL season because of violations of the NFL personal conduct policy. It was made available for reinstatement on November 11th. This is his first tryout since the suspension ended. If you remember, he was investigated for sexual misconduct. The investigation began after the Baltimore Banner reported that 16 massage therapists at 8 different spas in the Baltimore area accused Tucker of sexual misconduct, reportedly between 2012 and 2016. Tucker denied the allegations repeatedly, called them unequivocally false on his social media this past spring. Now, Kellen Morris was asked if he intended to speak to Tucker about those allegations during the visit. He said, that's all part of the visit and the conversations that you have to have. So, so not only about the on-field stuff for a player, you also need to know maybe a circumstance here and there, and certainly had a suspension in the league. He served that suspension. Obviously, it's the same information to collect. There's some information to collect. Obviously, our personnel group would do a really good job collecting all the information. But this will be a workout. We'll see how this stuff takes place. And the Saints also have Charlie Smith on their practice squad, and Moore said he would be included in the evaluation process. Smith came to the Saints via the International Player Pathway last season, has never kicked in a regular season game. And, and the one thing is, this is probably the same situation that, we may be comparing apples and oranges. I don't know, but, and you can chime in. You can chime in anytime with any of these topics, but I don't know how people feel about this, because I don't know, were these cases settled, or were they? I just feel like the NFL had to jump in and suspend him now to get it over with, or during the offseason. But I just feel like that, do I like what happened? No. But also you had Deshaun Watson with something similar, with massages and inappropriate sexual conduct as well. Now, I don't agree with what either player did, but the NFL made their decision on how long to suspend Justin Tucker. I don't know what's the case with the legal portion of it. Because most cases, the NFL will wait until everything that's happened in the court system before making a final decision. And even if you're innocent in a court of law, you're still putting yourself in that position, violating the personal conduct policy. So you're looking at that. You have to make they had to make a decision because everything going on. And I said this when this first the story started to break about his misconduct in massage parlors in the Baltimore area. A lot of because a lot of times they just wait till everything's over, but I just think it was the NFL had to do something. I lost my train of thought with where I was going with it, but we'll see what happens. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I'm just wondering, because we know this a lot of times, and we found this out a couple of times with like Phillies players that violated the PED policy. At least this was the case with J.C. Romero during the 2008 season and during the postseason, as a matter of fact. And it may not always be the case, but sometimes it is. They're going to investigate this failed piss test. They're going to investigate this before they come to a final decision. Because the last thing you want to have is a player saying, I didn't do this. I didn't take anything. This is a bad test. And then you do all the union stuff behind closed doors. And then when all options are exhausted, that's when MLB decides, okay, well, so-and-so has been suspended for 80 games. There you go. So in this case, I don't know if there's anything going on, but obviously Kellen Moore is doing the right thing by asking, hey, we're giving you this opportunity, but we want some background on this because we know that if we do sign you, we are going to get grief for this. And whether, I don't know what happened with the court cases or anything like that. It isn't like Alvin Kamara, who beat the crap out of somebody in a elevator at the Cromwell in Vegas when the Pro Bowl was there a few years ago. Obviously the NFL decided, hey, we got to do something about this. So, but they, I mean, I don't know if this is if this investigation is still going on, but at least with the NFL, it's over because you can't suspend them again unless there's new cases. But even so, it's like, but yeah. So, do I like what he did? No. But you're talking about a guy who may not be long for the league. Because if he doesn't do well in this tryout, then it's like, maybe it wasn't what I was thinking. Because I said, well, now maybe we know why his success rate on field goals was way down. Because was this something that was festering behind closed doors, or is that just a baseball thing that they handle a lot of this behind the scenes? Now, if it was behind the scenes, then we have a reason for it. Then we know why he failed as a kicker last year before he ended up getting released by the Ravens, suspended, all that. So, don't like what he did, but I guess, you can't. And of course, we'll get, well, they colluded on this guy and they blackballed Kaepernick and all that. Every case is different, but yeah, it's not something I agree to, but anyway, so yeah, it's hard to segue into something else from that, um, but do want to remind you of the horse racing show I have, which is also eligible, which is Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. And we will be looking at something on Saturday. I don't know what yet. Let me just peek at something here. Okay, they didn't announce yet. So we'll be looking at something. We may look at Gulfstream because it's the beginning of their championship meet on Thursday. And not only that, I mean, I'm guessing Churchill. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. But one reason why we may look at Gulfstream, and whoops, I did not want to do that. One reason why we may look at other things is because AJ's horse, The Town, is running in a big race on Saturday. It is the FTBOA, whatever that means, Florida Sire in Reality Stakes. And what they do is they have a series of 2-year-old races that go from the summer to the fall. There's one for the boys, one for the girls. Well, The Town is entered in the race at Gulfstream on Saturday. It's race number 10 of an 11 race card. I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you can read this here. So race 10, 4:47 is the post time, and they are going a mile and the 16th, and he is stuck on the outside in the 10 hole. 11 horses in this race. So not a great post position there, especially with the way that Gulfstream Park was reconfigured years ago to a mile and an eighth track, which, I personally hate. I liked it better when it was a mile track, but, Stronach ruined that track. But anyway, so the reason why is you have a short run into the first turn. Now, they did change the run up for the races for a mile and a 16th and mile and an eighth last year. So there's a little more run up to that, to the first beam at the mile and the 16th pole to start the timing of the race. But you do have, a short run into that first turn. But if The Town runs the way he's expected to run, at least what I'm expecting, without looking at the program or anything else as of yet, he will probably be sitting towards the back, start to make a move toward the end of the backstretch and try to close to win. Now, we'll see when they post the odds, how much they think of that first race, because he ran at Keeneland, had a bad start, but closed like crazy, finished second. And if it was another half a furlong more, he probably would have won. But he gets the added ground here. And I think that this horse is going to love 2 turns. May end up on the Kentucky Derby trail. So we'll see what happens. And he runs on Saturday. So we'll definitely look at that race on Saturday. And we'll see what other races to look at as well. So that is race 10 on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. No morning line odds up as of yet. Now, we did have both Keepsake Box and Impractical run over the weekend. Keepsake Box finished 4th, going long in the on the Tapeta there at Gulfstream Park. Was wide yet again on the final turn. And Impractical went for the lead, was stalking, then just fell back. So nothing worth showing. But so the town will be ready. Will be running on Saturday at Gulfstream Park for Brad Cox. So, by the way, it's 20-9 49ers over the Panthers. So we're going to go to the stupid shit that I saw segment, and this is things I do on occasion. Some people say, "Oh, you got to make this a regular thing." I can't make this a regular thing because there are days where you'll just be like, "That's not stupid." Well, I'm going to take you to a horse race in Louisiana, specifically Evangeline Downs, which is running quarter horses this time of year. So some people that are watching this and saying, "Wait a second, Evangeline, they don't. What do you mean they're running in November? They run thoroughbreds from April to August. They run a quarter horse meet as well." And the finale on Saturday was a race going 870 yards, so 10 yards short of half a mile. And they call it around the hook because you have a quick run into the first turn. And what we're going to do, I'm going to show you what happened on Saturday night in this finale. Keep an eye along the rail as they're on the turn. Whoops. Here we go.
Buckle up, Blue is in. We're all set. Is all by T and ripping away his explosive legend who tries to clear him and will do it in the first couple of 100 yards. A little tight there towards the inside for easy jump, but Jet KVN Valiant Corona had to slam on the brakes. It is explosive legend who is the leader, although trying to get out a bit again. He is the leader by.
Did you see that? Let's play it again. Watch the inside.
Is all by T and ripping away his explosive legend who tries to clear him and will do it in the first couple of 100 yards. A little tight there.
Yes, that is an ambulance there, people. An ambulance. I don't know how this happened, but I guarantee you there's a position for an ambulance driver, or Evangeline is, or the ambulance company is looking for a new driver or something like that, because that could have been disastrous. That was something that you just shake your head at, because I'm going to show you from here. I'm going to show you this video from the Pollock report. So I'm going to share a new tab. So you're going to see two different views here. You're going to see the original view that I showed you. And then you'll see the head-on shot, what they usually show, like when there's an inquiry on a race. So here you go. And watch, and they're all avoiding this ambulance. So, ew. So here we go. Here it is again. So thankfully the jockeys saw that, because if not, you have a couple of horses that are dead on the track, and probably the jockeys being dead as well. So, yeah, a couple of horses there that, you know,
towards the inside for easy jump, but yet KVN Valiant Corona had to slam on the brakes. It is Explosive Legend who is
and
although trying to get out a bit again. He is the leader by a length down the inside.
I don't know.
Out wide, One Fast Cajun is there, right there. Just catch this. It's a big gap back to the others. They're off the top of the turn with easy jump and jet. Explosive Legend.
So you had you had a couple of horses there that were affected there. The one there on the inside, the three, which is the gray there in the back. So the 8 ends up winning, but you know, because half the field was affected, minimum, they made it that they made this a no contest, and all the money was refunded.
What's going on?
So I'm waiting to see what happens here with the rest of this video here, because this is from the Pollock.
Track vehicle out of position on the turn with the track vehicle out of position on the turn, and it did seriously affect some of the runners. And to be honest with you, I saw a flash of white and did not pick up that was actually a moving vehicle as they were heading the other way. With that, thankfully nothing happened, but with the incident, tonight's 8th race has been declared no contest.
So I don't know how. I don't know how they even allowed this to happen, because of the fact that you had, because usually what happens when you have these races, the ambulance is usually to the far outside. They're never on the inside, because that's prime horse racing real estate area. You know, you rarely see a horse on the outside rail. And that's where the ambulances are in the event that a horse loses a jockey, or God forbid, you know, the horse breaks down. You know, I mean, there's a separate equine ambulance for the horses, but a lot of what they do, you know, they're on the track for a reason, and somehow they let this happen. Now, I don't know. I don't know how many races they ran around the hook, if it was just that one race, but that's something you cannot allow under any circumstances. I mean, I don't care. Yeah, that was the only race going around. But the thing is, this isn't a track that only runs quarter horses. You have a thoroughbred meet that runs from April to the end of August. That cannot happen under any circumstances. I don't know who's at fault, but that's some stupid shit that I saw where horses could have died, jockeys could have died, and this would have been plastered on YouTube because, you know, you want to give PETA any ammo to get horse racing banned. There you go. You almost gave them the perfect ammo to do that. And it definitely was way too stupid of a incident that occurred there. So, but so that's definitely something that was very stupid. And I hope. I mean, I didn't look to see what happened with the ambulance driver, but that's grounds. That has to be grounds for getting fired, even if it's just you're there one day a week because the ambulance company that you work for has a contract. So, but just think in terms of, let's look at the money that's wagered on this race. Win, place, show, exacta, trifecta, superfecta wagering, all that money that was in those pots. And granted, we're not talking massive amounts like when I tell you guys on Saturday morning to take advantage of the FanDuel Racing promo that's on the FanDuel Racing website. And by the way, check out that FanDuel promo as well. $5, bet $5, get $150 in refunds. I'm sorry, in bonus bets if you win your first wager. It isn't like we're looking at it isn't like on Saturday morning when I say, well, these tracks are the ones that get the most money, and if you go to these particular tracks, well, you can do that, but you're going to influence the pools because not only do I want you to take advantage of any free money that may be out there, I also want you to take advantage of the fact that you're not going to influence the pools that much if you want to bet the full $500 on that first wager on FanDuel Racing. So, but Evangeline lost a lot of money on that race. Now, how much that was, I don't know. But you're looking about a ton of money that they lost. So, and also, the one thing I see here, now I don't know, because I don't watch Evangeline, especially during the quarter horse meet, because I can't wager on it in Pennsylvania. Let's say you had a 5-8 double. Let's say you're getting $10, $15 back for a $1 double. You're now getting $2.30 because you got to pay 5 with all. And you got to pay for 7.5 all in the pick 3. And you got to pay 7.7518, 7.75 all in the pick 4. And in the pick 5, 1.775 all. Now you're only getting $22.15 back. So, but yeah, so you're talking about a lot of money that's lost by the track because of negligence. I think it's common sense that you don't want to be on the inside of the track. So I don't know what that driver is thinking. I just hope he did. I just hope he lost that job, because that is some serious stupid shit that I saw here. So that is it for this show, and I do appreciate everybody watching. Whether you're watching on my Twitch at Joe Quills. By the way, subscribe, follow there. Also check out bleacherbrothers.com for your sports needs. Also, thanks to those watching on the Bleacher Brothers Twitch, Bleacher Brothers YouTube, Bleacher Brothers X, and Bleacher Brothers Facebook. Thank you, Mickey, for joining me. Thank everybody for joining me who was here to listen. And do appreciate each and every one of you. Mike will be back next Monday night, hopefully. No show on Thursday for Thanksgiving, so tomorrow will be the last show of the week. And then we'll be back on Saturday with Also Eligible. The town runs in a 2-year-old stake race at Gulfstream Park, which may put him in line for a run through the Florida races for the Kentucky Derby as well. So, so we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Hopefully the odds are in so I can give you a better odds on there. If not, just have to wait till Saturday. But we'll definitely look at that race, and I'll figure out the rest of the races as we get closer to the weekend. So, but I do appreciate each and every one of you. Subscribe to twitch.tv/Joe Quills, and leave those alerts on so you can know when I'm live. Even though you pretty much know I'm 9 o'clock Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday usually. So that's it for now. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's do it live tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Hopefully we won't have any stupid stuff like we saw tonight, and let's have some fun. So have a great night, everybody. Hope you have a great night, great week out there, and I'll see you in the winner's circle. Have a great night, everybody.